Well. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Liberia Rise. I am your host, Augustin Sharif, and I think I'm going to be joined here shortly by a few other guys, and we are going to be discussing Liberia at 177 years old. Man, I felt like I was just born yesterday. Now we're celebrating 177 years already in Liberia. Well, anyway, folks, welcome to the show. Welcome to the discussion. And man, it's hard to say 177. If Liberia was my grandma, I don't know how many grandmother that would be, but we'll get into it. 177. And so, guys, welcome to the show. We will try to open the phone line. I know last week the lines did not work, so we will definitely go into the broadcast. We are going to be discussing some of the high points, the low points. What have Liberia achieved in 177 years? What can we put our fingers on and say, look, this is our trademark? I mean, I can look at a lot of different things in different parts of Africa and say, look, that right there, that is this particular country. So we'll see. We're not going to be beating down Liberia. I think we can say thank you to Liberia. Some of us, hopefully, we turn out good. So we'll see what happens. Well, Mr. George is going to be joining me. And I have another fellow who's going to be joining me. He's a scientist, and we'll see if he makes it. But stay tuned, share the broadcast. I am going to play a different song today because, come on. It's celebration of Liberia's Independence Day. So let's do the All Hail Liberia Hill. It's a song by a good friend, Othello Collins. And so we are going to go on the show, and we're going to be discussing that right after this song. Share the broadcast, and we'll be right back.
Oh, hail Liberia, hail. Oh, hail Liberia, hail. This glorious land of liberty shall long be
Oh man, I can listen to Othello Collins all day. Would let us get the show on the road. I think I'm going to bring Dr. George on here. I think there's some technical difficulties taking place in the back there, but we would definitely be on the show. River says, Pro, where are you? I don't see you. Liberia at 177. All right. Dr. George, how you doing, boss?
I'm doing fine, Mr. Sherry. I went to look to see if I had Liberia shirt.
I love that shirt, by the way. I love that shirt. I love that shirt. Man, this is custom made because it got your name on it. So, yeah, that's a nice shirt. All right, River says, bro, I need you on, bro. I need you. Just call me. I will send you a link. You can come and join it. Well, friends, welcome to Liberia 177. You know, I was making a joke here. I said, man, if Liberia was my grandma, I don't know how many grandmothers we will actually have. 177 is not a small feat. You know, I know we celebrate people that lived longest in the world. We got people from Japan, other parts of the world that when they celebrate 100 years, we're like, wow, that person has seen a lot of events in the world. What were you saying, Dr. George?
I said, and I see many Christmas.
Many Christmases, man. Yeah, so here we are, you know, talking about Liberia. We're talking about celebrating 177 years. You know, and today's show, I think it's just going to be a fun show. We just celebrated. You know, our kids went on the beach. I remember on the beach as a kid. People went to, how do you call the park right there in Congo Town? The park that everybody wants. Invincible Park. People went there. They took picture. I saw it all over Facebook. People went to the new, I think it's called Riverfront or Riverview, you know. So saw pictures everywhere. And so people have fun. I think people enjoy the festivities. Kids went out and they got their little 26. They got their 26. Look, the fun took place. But on the serious note, when we get to the bottom of it and say, after all of that fun is said and done, where are we as a country? Dr. George, you celebrate, you saw the event. You know, just give us the opening monologue before we start having fun.
Not only did we celebrate, we were part of the planning for the celebration in Dallas, Texas, where I'm a member of the administration. We planned for 1 week. So from Friday evening, we had a night for the seniors. Our seniors over 65 came out and did some bookie, wookie.
Wow.
These were goodies for the seniors. Then yesterday, oh, wow. I mean, my friends trooped out. So I've been living in Dallas for years, but this was the day we had the highest number of Liberians. Even Steve was there dancing like he always liked to do, Dr. Positive. So we had a great turnout in Dallas, and then how they call it, we had a sports event yesterday. Today, right now, we're having the church service again in Dallas. And next weekend, we have the ball on August 3rd. In the evening, we have the ball. Unfortunately, I won't be there with them in Dallas, but we have planned. We have a lot of Liberians have come to the patrons right now. Our patrons number is almost 35. And we have a lot of Liberian vendors coming out. In fact, the Liberians that came out yesterday, they were so excited that every one of our vendors that left the Dunlop Park in Arlington, Texas, left the park excited and happy because most of them made a lot of money. I also know that celebrations at the Liberian embassy, hundreds of Liberians came out to the embassy yesterday too, to celebrate, to kick off the celebration. I think there was celebration. I saw an invite for celebration in Atlanta. So all over the U.S., Liberians have come up in the numbers to celebrate. And as the national orator says in her triangle of Liberians, some of us we just identify ourselves with the country. Some of us have responsibility with the country. Some of us we do that. So yes, it was. We're still celebrating as we have our T-shirts yet. My T-shirt from Dallas have not arrived yet. But I showed my president, Mr. Natalia Gould, listening to me and keeping my T-shirt safely. But yeah.
No, I mean, I saw all of the festivities taking place in DFW. I saw that and I said, wow. Texas, they say everything is big in Texas. You guys did already big in Texas, and so yeah,
Yeah.
so to get together
And you know,
yesterday.
Mr. Sherry, why it's exciting? Why excited me too is this T-shirt I have is from Amazon. Amazon have a whole section when you say Liberia, bring a whole section of Liberian T-shirts. In fact, I have one T-shirt that says "Straight Outta Liberia." Very beautiful T-shirt. So those of you who want to have custom made T-shirts, you can go on Amazon. I'm not promoting Amazon. I don't work for them. I don't get any money from them. But I know many of us try to get custom made stuff. We want it. I will have. So I have this T-shirt. In fact, it's baseball season. I have a special one baseball T-shirt. I went to the baseball game last week, Tuesday with. So yeah. So just in case you
But no,
people,
that's good. You may not be promoting Amazon, but you're promoting like your own business. Hopefully, it was not made in Ghana or made in Nigeria, or you promoting like made business. So that's very good, very very good. All right, so man, like I was saying, I just feel like I was born yesterday, and now we're celebrating 177 years.
why you guys here in Colorado? I didn't see any invitations showing that anything was happening in Colorado. What happened?
I'll never forget it.
As an executive with Liberia Association in Dallas, I get we see a lot of invitations coming up and down, but I have not seen anything. I will speak Liberia. I don't think I see anything coming from Colorado. Well, I mean,
We only 5 here in Colorado. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. They have. I mean, they have the ULAC branch here, right? But no. I mean, maybe I just didn't go out to do anything, but I think people did some things, but it was not publicized. I didn't see any invitation. All I saw was there was an announcement that I received of a passed away in the community. So, that's all I heard.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. So you post with death and so.
So,
But to the family.
yeah, we definitely will pass that along. Yeah, absolutely. Well, Dr. Josh, let's talk about Liberia. Let's talk about our sweet land of liberty. Let's talk about sweet Liberia. All hail Liberia, hail. 1847, when they made that declaration. What were they thinking? I mean, I don't want to compare, but we always make this analogy. But when you look at the United States, for example, they knew exactly what they were thinking. They knew exactly why they wanted to. They were not just trying to get out of their parents' house. Because Liberia, for me, when I look at Liberia, it's just like a child leave the parents' house. You come from the ACS and you start got independent. So it's just like a child leaving the parents' house. You didn't go too far. You just get a little kitchen next door. So let's talk about Liberia. Let's go into the history. I mean, let's not dwell too much on the history, of course, but what were they thinking? Were they ready? Were they prepared? Or was this just one of those big show things? Just like, I think the ACS actually gave them an ultimatum and just like, you know what? You guys need to start helping yourself. And Joseph Jenkins was okay.
First of all, Mr. Sheriff, in any history book you read about nation building, majority of the people who start nations, they didn't plan starting. They went to war and they came out victorious and they have to think about the process of building a nation, or they migrated and found themselves in a free territory and they had to select someone to lead them. So in my majority of the documents that you read about nation building, there's no expectation to start. Or how it's going to be, how you're going to start. There's no major expectation. So Liberia find itself in a situation where the expectation was to come to a free land. How this land look, how they were going to do about it, they didn't know about that. So when the abolitionists fought the battle here in the United States of America, and surprisingly, they were given a go ahead to go back to Africa. When they got to Africa, they had an idea of how a nation should be like, or the process was something they didn't put in place. And people ask, I know there's a question of 100, but then 76, 77. First of all, like in my opinion, anybody can argue. I've argued over the years that Liberia did not gain independence by anybody. It was just a process that seemed to have come from the blue, and the entire process was plagiarized. So you cannot build an independent nation based on plagiarism. I think that's where our struggles is right now. Because our entire process of independence being a country was plagiarized. Whether we talk about the first constitution written by the Harvard professor Simon Greenleaf, or the second constitution, we replicated the U.S. Constitution to fit us,
Just
and
reproduce it, man.
we reproduce it. So the mindset of the struggles that the settlers went through here in the US and the mindset of the struggles that the settlers went in Liberia was different mindset. But yet and still were brave enough to have a constitution tailored after the US Constitution. Our flag was also plagiarized. The American flag, we saw it and we decided to fix our own. In fact, I've shared on this program other programs where I've been invited to. I remember I was leading a field trip to a place called Pioneer Farms in Texas, where you have the regional Texas history. And I entered this room, I saw this flag, and I was excited. I was about to share with my students. That's the flag of the Republic of Liberia. That's my country. That's my flag, the Lone Star forever. So good thing is that when you are a teacher and that blood of a teacher, you want to read first before you talk. So I went to read that thing. That flag was this flag we have. This flag, the Liberian flag, where flag? Yeah, this
right there.
a complete replica of the Texas naval flag for Texas War independence in the 1830s. A complete replica. Perhaps the straps is not the same, but this exact thing. So yeah. So even our flag, we duplicated it. We are not a country. Every major country in this world has a national symbol. We don't have a symbol that we can rally around as a country. We don't have something that can bring us together and say we are Liberians. This is it. The only semblance of a symbol we had that we could rally around was when the Lone Star of Liberia were playing during the Civil War. We had to travel from Ghana to Nigeria, chasing the team, seeing the team that what we call the George We Are 11 at that time. That was what brought us together, soccer. And from those time till this time seems to be what brought us together. But we don't have a national symbol that a Liberian can look at and say that is my national symbol. And we all stand up in patriotism. Even our flag, the flag is a replica of the Texas or naval flag of independence. So yeah. So when you have this background where your history is, we have not even written our history. One of the few countries in the world that our history starts at the middle of the history, right? When you pick up a history book or you go to Google and Google Liberia, what comes up? Land that was founded by free slaves in
1820s. Yep.
1820s, 1822, when they shipped land on Providence Island. But we also know the history also said that this ship also went to an island called Chevron Island in Sierra Leone, but because of mosquitoes and the death, they ran and they came to Providence Island. The history is also clear that they had to purchase the land because in the Liberian history, there's this saying when Chief Sawaboso had to come down from Bapolu to Monrovia, to Masurado County to meet with King George. There's this famous Liberian quotation: having you sold your land and accepted payment, you must bear the consequences. Let the settlers have the land immediately, or I will cut. Let the settler have the lands immediately, or I will cut your hairs from your shoulder as I did old King George on my last visit to the coast. That is engraved in the Liberian history, in our history. So it means that these settlers came to met people, but we have a whole lot. Excuse me. We have a lot of our history. Oh, excuse me.
Get some water. This is getting good. But as Dr. George was saying, guys, I think basically we have to look at history. I mean, right now we're just setting up the historical piece of it, because now we want to go back into the real meat. We want to go and talk about, yes, okay, our history is convoluted. We mess up some stuff. We get independent. Our independence, again, the analogy I'm making is just like a kid turns 18 and he said, Mom, Dad, I'm going to move out of the house. And they get out of the parents' house. They didn't go too far. They just get that apartment just in case something happened. We can run back home. But here we are, Liberia is a country, and hopefully things are going well. And then you got Mm, yeah, you hit some roadblock. So, Dr. George, you giving us some historical background here,
Yeah.
but to go back though.
Yeah, so
Uh,
you have that issue from both ends. So we are a country, and I remember when Professor Elwood Dunn gave his oration during the time of Ellen Johnson said it. He also pointed to these facts. We have not fully sat, our history have not sat to write down our history, so our students can read, because
Okay,
we
so
have.
Dr. George, let me interrupt you for a second. If the history was to be written, you are on the panel and you guys need to now rewrite the history. I remember they were actually coming with a panel to do some research. Where do the history begin? Do you start right there with the natives, right there on the Green Coast? Where do you begin Liberia's history?
We start talking about the end of the great Egyptian civilization, when the Kushite civilization was defeated in Meroe civilization, when this great African trek started from down, you know, all history, you know, the beauty about reading history, all history starts from the Fetal Crescent, from Egypt, from the era where you're the Garden of Eden. So we know that the language group, the Bantu, the Kwa group that we have, the Kwa group came from that great migration that started from the Sudan, the end of the big African iron civilization, of the Mirage civilization, the breakdown of the Egyptian civilization, and that led to a great movement down. And that movement brought us into Nigeria. That's Ghana. You go to Cameroon, you have Bassa, you have Kisi people in Cameroon. you have Bassa people in Nigeria also. So you see that movement coming down. And then we have the great Yoruba civil wars. When the Yoruba civil wars started again, it led to another movement that brought us down into West Africa. And then you start having the settlement of the Kru people, the settlement of the Dane people, the Bassa people, the other groups coming in that era that we settled. And that's why when historians argue in 1980, when Samuel Doe wanted to change the motto of the country, historians sat with him and said, no, the love for liberty did not only bring the free slave. Many of our people were running away from the wars, whether the Yoruba civil wars, whether the breakdown of the great civilization up north that led to the great African trek. People were coming, and then we settled. So you start from those people. You know, I've been trying to write a book that links to the past election, and how to go back to look at these government system, election system among the Bassa people, among the Kru people, and great rich history of how these different groups settle, how these groups intertwine, how these groups had how they call it, how they had trade going on amongst them, and within that development, the trade going on, that was when the settlers arrived.
But see, I think, in my opinion, though, this is what makes the Liberian discussion very unique. You have a situation, you have this where, you know, I think every history books from Liberia, following Liberian history, they always begin at the 1820 mark. You start with what's happening in the great United States of America after the American Civil War. You have all of that stuff, and then it dumps right into the Liberian history. Now, to even make matter worse, the settlers that left from here that went, even when they got on the coast, when they got to Liberia, they were still trying to recruit their friends from here to bring them along. They were still trying to recruit because they had not fully considered the natives to be one of them. And I think that's why when they pen these words that you and myself have across our chest, the love of liberty brought us here, it was not inclusive of the natives. They were talking about the group that left from here and went. So that's where our history begins. You know, that's what makes it unique.
That's where our written history began.
Sure. Okay, I agree with that. No, I do. I agree with that. Basically, I think that's where the written history starts. And then so we take it from that point and we start to move upward. And then we say, okay, 177 years old. Here we are. Is Liberia too old to catch up? Is Liberia too old to actually, people say you can't train older new tricks? Is Liberia too old to be in the modern nation building?
No. Because the whole issue of us celebrating and dancing for 1847 is, if we want to say that we got independent in 1847 from whosoever gave us independence, and we're celebrating it, no. In 1847, it was only the 13,000 people that live in Monserrado County that got independence. Right? Or let me say Monserrado County, Sano, Monserrado, and that belt. That
the other territories, yeah.
Monserrado, Grand Bassa County, going up later on, Maryland joined with us. That's the people who got independent. The American Liberian 13,000 people. If look at the historical records of the voting pattern in Liberia. So it was only those, and the indigenous Liberians did not participate in any referendum of independence. It was those people, those settlers people in Monserrado County that did their referendum and gave themselves independence. Indigenous Liberia did not have the opportunity of voting until almost 100 years later. So all this celebration we having of independence in 1847, it was 13,000 people who got independent. It was not until 100 years later that the rest of us from the rest of Liberia, I know some of my friends that know me very well will be making some comments, but the rest of us, right? The rest of us for the rest of the country, it was 100 years that we had the right to vote. It was 100 years that the native population had, the native men had almost 100 years that native male had the right to vote. It was 100 years later that women had the right to participate in political exercise. It was 100 years later, almost 100 years later, that the native political organization, political class became integrated into the national political class.
But Dr. Josh, I'll go back on that because I think you open the show by saying when it comes to nation building, there's no blueprint and people just sometimes fall into it. The great United States of America, you have 13 colonies. You have 13 colonies that came together and say, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to sign this Declaration of Independence thing. 50 different states. And so, yeah, I mean, it could be those 13,000 back there in Liberia, but they were a representation of the whole country.
No, they were not representing the whole country. They were representing the people in it. The books are clear. They were the people who came on the on the ship. So sorry, the ship who came, the various ships that landed in Monserrado County, they gave themselves the opportunity and called themselves free men, citizens. The indigenous Liberians were not recognized as citizens until almost 100 years later. And it was only President Tubman that had a plan for hinterland Liberia. All the other Liberian presidents besides President Tubman did not have a serious plan for hinterland Liberia. The plan was to satisfy those groups. So yes, that one, when more people came, the more you were giving land, you stay in that area, you were recognized in that area, and you had the right to participate. And there was this crazy thing. You see, there's this thing in one of the fields that I work in. I heard people hurt other people. These slaves that came, the ex-slaves that came, they brought the mentality of slavery into Liberia. And with that mentality of slavery, the same thing they experienced while they were here in the United States of America. You had to own land. Before you could vote in Liberia, they had to determine you as a landowner, and to be part of this political process. So yes, nobody has a blueprint, but the process started with few people thinking that they can take over an entire nation. But even with that, it was not even an entire nation. It was the conclaves that they found themselves, and then later on decided to fight to own this entire political entity today we call Liberia. So when you ask the question about are we too old? No, we are only, if we are to talking about every one of us Liberians participating in the building of our nation, we are about 77 years old. Because it was almost 100 years after independence that the rest of us were given the opportunity to join this stream. And even that, it was not until 1980 that we started to have strong political voice in the political building of Liberia. So when it comes about every one of us participating in nation building in Liberia, every one of us coming to the table, it was not until 1980.
So to cut out the 100 years, to cut out the 100 years and say, look, it is to do this service to the country as a whole. Because yes, why it is true that it was this particular group of people that declared that Declaration of Independence, and which actually I find it comical, and I truly mean this. I find it very funny because number one, your masters have already declared you free. They have declared you free, and now you are on this free land. And basically, it was not a favor that the American government was doing to you by telling you, hey, you can go back. It was not a favor. There was a lot of political pressure on them here in the US. Apart from that, they were actually trying to build up this society where they can just remove people of color, and that way they can just have their own, group to themselves. And so it was not like they were doing us a favor and just like, oh man, you work too hard, let's take you back home. No, it was a pressure on them, and so serving that culture, and they look at free slaves as being trouble, and there was a question of troublesomeness in their society. We got to get rid of these people. So I agree with all that. But you bring them to this place, they are already free, and they go and declare that independence. So like I said, they just came out of their parents' house, and they said, now I'm a man, I can stand by myself. And if that though, Dr. George, I think my opinion here is still a representation of the whole country. Now, whether the natives were involved, whether they were part of that process, they were not involved until, like you said, back in the 80s with Samuel and everything else. But they represent the whole country. If now we got to go back and say, look, let's redo, inclusive of everybody, and the only way we can do that is through referendum.
Oh yeah, there were several referendums that took place through the process, the entire process we deal with. But yeah, I mean, at a point you want to sit and say, oh, I agree with Mr. Sherry or what he's saying. But there was a specific question you asked. You asked if Liberia was too old. So someone would sit down and say, okay, let me start discussing from 1847. 1847, every one of us were not part of the whole Liberian project. It was not until almost 100 years that they decided that we should be part of this project. So if the people in the first 100 years made mistake, why do you want to hold me responsible? I was not part of that project. But we became part of the project nearly 100 years later, and we did not have a strong political stand in this project until the 1970s. When the Bacchus Matthew, the Tobanantipote, the Dew Masons of this world, the Samuel Jacksons, them sat down here in the United States of America and developed the new political party called PAR. And this party went into Monrovia, worked with Amos Sawyer at the University of Liberia, and the indigenous was able to at least begin to start winning a mayoral seat. And then PAR became, and the PPP became ready for elections in 1980. Unfortunately, the coup took place. But the entire thing we bring into bear is that it has been only 77 years of this 177 years that we are celebrating, that the rest of us were invited to the table. Now, we can start, when you want to talk about our blunder, the rest of us, we can say 1980, yes, we made some crazy blunder. When we came to the table only as a voting instrument. There was only one political party, the Chumwi Party. Every one of us were a member of that party, whether you agree or you don't agree. And then the other political parties only participated in election for the name of participation.
So I mean, let's go to the 77 years. Even though I disagree with you completely about just 77 years, because there's no way you can go back generationally and say that generation and this generation, we are having the same fight here in the United States. Because we can go back and look at the same ancestral bloodline. You can look at and say, there are some Black Americans in this country who already feel like, they should get reparation. But then when you look at it, like the state of California is fighting, they're just like, no. It was not you directly. It was like your ancestors or other people way back then. Now, you are not involved. So why should we pay you? So that's the same kind of argument you bring into Liberia. You cannot remove a whole race and remove a whole century and say, because I was not alive in 100 years old, I was not part of that process, so my blunders don't count. No, it counts. Unfortunately, everything is on my head. And when I look at it, when I ask the question if Liberia is too old, because now we find ourselves in this particular predicament, right? We have actually mentored other children. When I say children, I'm talking about other nations. You have mentored them. And those nations have gone way ahead of you. I remember when I first went to the University of Liberia, I had professors from Ghana. I got professors from other places that were at the university, and they were there. Our place was a country that people wanted to come to. And so from the 80, if I should agree with your 77-year-old analogy, but what have we brought to the table that we say, look, when we came in, we took over, the country began to go in the right trajectory. Did we bring more development? Did we bring more to the table, or did we take the country backwards?
You see, and this is my opinion for everybody watching. It's an opinion. It's my opinion. Working on my opinion. You see, Mr. Sharif. First of all, the best of us. When it was time for us to take over the political reign of the country, the best of us were not selected. Right? There was a military coup, and the 29-year-old master sergeant led that coup. And when he even though he appointed the best of us, Marcus Matthew, foreign minister, and others in different capacity, after about 2 years, every one of them were out of government. He has removed every one of them and brought his people. So it was not the best of us. But the point is that have we developed? Have we gone forward? It's difficult to develop, and I'm going to drop this. I know that the orator said something yesterday. Everybody getting.
I gotta bring the zoom in. The zoom in the backyard. So
nothing is stopping. But yeah, but let's remember that every country, the countries develop based on identity, based on nationality and patriotism. Mm-hmm. As Liberians, we don't have an identity. As of this, we don't have anything we identify us. At a particular point in time in our country history, were behaving like we were Americans. Now we have come to America, we found out we are not Americans. And we do not accept us to be American. At a point in time after the Civil War, we have come back, we're behaving like other African nations. And we bring in traditional marriage, making a big thing. We need to sit down as a people, and that's what makes development difficult. Because we have not been able to appreciate, and that's why I'm told you that we're not on the table, and that's why we have this struggle. If the settlers have come and appreciate the African political economy, appreciate the trade that was going on between the people from Babulu, the people from Grand Crew, the people from Nima, people, the interaction that was going on between those different ethnic groups, if we have developed that into something, but now we may have something that we can say this is our national development plan to go forward with. But we have struggled with it because we are still struggling with who we are as a people, what we are as a people. I appreciate, and one of the good things about the Civil War, I appreciate we have come out of the Civil War, we have visited different countries, and we now have this new framework, a new thinking about what we want our nation to be. And we are on it. It's going to take us time. This new democracy we had Ellen Johnson Sirleaf came. She developed the road to Grand Bassa County. Not enough, but we had pliable roads to get to Grand Bassa County. She also developed the roads that went all the way to Banga. We are, I think, okay to how they call it. You can drive from Fishtown to Plibo on paved roads. Those things are happening little by little. It's going to take time. It's not going to happen overnight. But we are doing something. We are progressing. We are arguing about issues. The yellow mission issue. Some time ago, we are saying, "Oh, let it go," but we are saying, "No, we must start making system to work." Someone, not because we see the benefit of something, we should rejoice, even if it's faulty. So we are having this great discussion with ourselves that this is a faulty arrangement. Someone must help with the be held responsible. Yes, it is good that we have this mission in country. It is good that we need it, but the whole process of getting it for all these conversations. Every 6 years, Liberians go to the poll. Someone I was talking the last time and said Liberian people didn't call it. And I said, no, Liberian people make conscious decision every 6 years when we go to the to vote. Most of the time, watching Mr. Sirleaf, Mr. Sharif, most of the time, about at least 70 to 75% of the lawmakers are changed in every election period in Liberia. About 90% of the senators are changed in almost every election. It means people are getting conscious. They are conscious of those who are working for them and conscious of those who are not working for them. Yes, it's going to be slow, but right now I'm comfortable that in my generation, progress have started. It will be
Okay.
slow, argue among ourselves, but we are making progress.
Okay. After 77 years, you celebrating one pavement road from Monrovia to Grand Bassa. Okay, I'll come back. Let me let me bring this Zoom in. Let me bring this Zoom in. Caillou, I want to boy. Man, I can't hear you. Dr. P, you can't hear you. I can't hear you. Work on your audio. Work on your audio. I still can't hear you. Work on your audio. I'm not hearing you. Yeah. Work on your audio. All right. So say something, Dr. P. Oh, he's working on his audio. So Dr. Giorgio, let me come back. I'll call you like the rare the bastard who used to Dr. Giorgio. but no, let's look at this. Because I mean I want you to go take me back to the beginning of your generation. You know, because I want to go take my back to 1847. You can start 1980 if you want. But let me take you back to the beginning of your generation. Okay? 1980. So let's talk about something within that time frame. And you can look at development-wise. Don't tell me Lone Star. Development-wise, that SKD, don't tell me SKD Stadium. That is not a national symbol. It's not a development. Show me something, give me something tangible that you can say, because when it comes to our medical field, that was during Tubman administration that he sent all those, I think Tubman October, sent all those doctors overseas to be specialized, to come back to our country, to actually help. So give me something within the beginning of your generation there, with Master Sergeant Doe, that you can look at and say, look, during his tenure, these were things that we were able to achieve, and I think the country was going in the right direction. Make that argument.
Oh, few argument, not much, but few, yes. First of all, after Sergeant Doe metamorphosed into from a military president to a civilian president, we saw the introduction of democratic election. As rigged as we say it was the beginning of a process. Every one of our ministries were in a home in the houses of a Totman or someone of that class. Those started the process of saving our government monies by removing our government ministries from in those buildings. He was building the defense ministry, very big building in that area that we call where you have the executive, where you have the ministerial complex.
The 540 era, the 540 building.
Yeah, they were developing the defense ministry through the help of the Israeli government. So we're moving ministries from within the homes of the Totmans and other people who decided that our country should be paying rent to their family for the rest of our lives. Then we had the situation where he started Joe started building roads. The roads from the roads from the Ganta Hapo Highway was in the process during the war. In fact, they have finished laying they have finished doing the first layer of work, and they were about to start laying the asphalt from on the Ganta Hapo Highway, especially when you were going towards Wedju area, when the Civil War started. All that work had to be brought to a halt. So whether it comes to roads, those started those process. We also have the Ibrahim Magida Highway that you could drive from Monrovia directly to Cape Mount, the Sierra Leone border, on a paved road. That was taking place. Then those started to expand on the estates, low income home. Though recognized after the Americans snubbed him, after the U.S. government snubbed him, he recognized that we had to change our currency, that we should no longer be depending on the U.S. dollars. So although we did not economically study the profit or how they call it, but we removed the U.S. dollar. It was those who removed the U.S. dollar as a legal tender in Liberia for us to start struggling as indigenous people. He did that in his administration when he first of all introduced the dough coins, and it was breaking, it was tearing our trouser every day. And he brought the paper note, the 7 corner, and then he brought a paper note. So those were not big progress, but it was some form of progress.
But you know
Liberia.
what? That's George. The beautiful thing here is, I don't know, Stevie. I still want to bring you in though if your audio is working. But the beautiful thing here is, Dr. George, not too many people remember those things because they are not tangible. We don't go there. Look, you have an airport. You have an international airport, and again, I'm looking at tangible things that we can put our fingers on and say, look, in Dr. George's generation, we have achieved A, B, and C. Your best hope was during the Ellen Johnson's administration. That was your best hope. I can go back to my 1847 and go back and say, look, Liberia, even though the U.S. it took a long time to recognize us, they recognized us in 1862. They did something for us, and they helped us build that little thing that we have today we call international airport. They help us, and basically, Liberia already has a name. They were being brought to the table back in the 60s. For example, you have 1960. Liberia became member of the United Nations Security Council. That was a big deal. They were part of that. They were coming to the table. They were getting recognized. They were getting some respect somewhere. People were putting respect on their name. By the time you get to 1963, the OAU, they were a founding member. They were very respected. By the time I leave that area and start coming to your generation, I start saying, okay, I don't know what happened. Something stopped. Progress stopped by the time we got to that place where we said we were grown men. Now we're going to pass the land over to the native son of the soil. And look, I'm not saying the way they settlers are doing it, because for over 133 years, that's all we knew in the country. The settlers were leading over 133 years. They were leading, they were directing, and that's all we just had to say, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, and move on. But your generation, the boy is in your court. And I'm just saying, what can we put our fingers on? Your current president, when he was running for office, he said we squander opportunity. I don't want to hear that language. I want to hear that we are doing something to make the country better. What can we put our fingers on? Dr. Positive, go ahead.
So since you come to the 1980 generation, let me start because that's around the time that I came on this earth. So I was so and then for us, we kind of, unfortunately, the war came and it impacted what we could see as development. But forget the war, forget 1847, right? Every country that is developed today, from Japan to the United States to even Ghana, that every Liberian are talking about right now, right? Everybody come up with a plan, a nation building plan. And that happened because we have consistent leaders that a consistent series of leaders that someone set the benchmark and everybody else have to follow. You understand? Sadly for Liberia, we haven't had a leader that really say, hey, I'm going to leave a legacy that is going to be so big that it's going to be difficult for people to trump, right? We haven't had any leader who value their name enough to want to leave something big enough for Liberia. And that's where our problem is. That's what I see from my late 1980 historical point of view to now. I haven't seen a leader that said, hey, this is what I want to see. I did a little bit of architecture, right? You have to do what is called a foundation. You do the perspective design, and then you present it to your client, right? So Liberia, we need a leader that will give Liberians that perspective design to say, hey, in the next 20 years, this is what I like to see Liberia at. In year one, we're going to start with this building. We're going to start with developing this area. Year two, we're going to go to this place. Year three, we're going to go to that place. Until we have that, Sharif, we'll have this merry-go-round of falling and coming up, falling and coming up until, I don't know, whatever. But we need a few leaders that will say, hey, Liberia, like I did a show the last time, can Liberia be better than Dubai or more beautiful than Dubai or even Miami? Well, like George Weah said, Liberia is better than Miami or something. Like Liberia is Miami. Who know what the president was thinking? Did he think that he was going to build Liberia into Miami or something? But not to go around, but I think as a country, from just a little piece we have had, we can go back into history to build the future. But I think if we dwell on the past too much and don't come up with a plan to move our country forward, Liberia will never rise. Sadly,
Hmm.
that's the little thing I wanted to add. Yeah.
No, that's a positive. Thank you. I like the point that you make about building on top of each other's legacy, right? Because you have serious-minded, that I'm using Dr. George word, serious-minded countries where, you have, President Biden, for example, he's in office and now he's thinking by 2030, we should be able to cut emission, about, he's thinking climate change. So if the next leader comes, that next leader can continue that policy, except if somebody different who comes and say, look, I don't like that, I'm going to do something completely different. But yeah, Dr. George, I want to go back to you here and just pick a brain on, the 1980, the 77-year-old Liberia. I want to go back to the 77-year-old Liberia.
Yeah.
The 77-year-old Liberia is still being led by the 1847 group, even though they were not born in 1847. But I want you to grasp my analogy. The 77-year-old Liberia is still being led by the 1847 group. You have a president now who has been there in public office for 40 years. Hey, I'm not picking on the man. I did a whole show on agency, so I'm not picking on anyone here, well, in terms of age. But what I'm talking about here, you are still being led by the 1847 group, that generation. And so how can you actually develop the country? How can you make it possible for young people to be able to go to technical school free? I remember when I was a kid, man, when I was a kid growing up in Canada, I was going to Basel High School. In Basel High School, I was doing architectural drafting free. Those were actually extra classes I was doing for free. Free. They have home economics for the girls that were doing. But right now, try it. You'll pay for all of those things extra. Mm-hmm. What can we do with our technical schools? How can we help to develop the young talents that we have in the country? And so if you have been led by the 1847 group, how can you be able to, that's why I asked the question strategically, are we too old to be able to follow the 21st century to say we're 77-year-old? Let's think 77 instead of 177.
Yeah, one of the things, as you were clapping for all your development of the 1847 group, which is a nice way to clap for them, yeah. But you also remember that they were also breaking down the native structures. They were destroying.
It's called domain, bro.
They were destroying the native structures. They were destroying the native economic system. They were destroying the indigenous economic system, the trade routes that existed between the different ethnic groups. They changed that trade route with us massively trading with people from the West. They destroyed the societal structure, or calling our native masquerade the devil, and making our children afraid to be a part of our cultural group. So when you start destroying all the things that people develop over time, and they can live in that structure, then you have massive problem when you start bringing new development. So yes, our 1980 did take place. The best of us did not have to cut it. We did not ask for a coup because we had a political group that wanted to go to the political process and win the ballot. But we had the best of us. The best of us did not take over the country after the coup, and therefore it set us back. We were killing each other. So now, instead of, we were first of all dealing with the divide between native Liberians and American Liberian. For 1980, now we have to start looking at ourselves. We start looking at, the Mano man don't let the Pede man don't let the Basso man, the Crown man don't let the Gio man don't let the Mano. So we have to start struggling with that because of all these things that have been introduced by the 1847 group. So that struggle took us to another 10 years of civil war that led to the death of 250,000 of us. That again destroyed our nation so much that the younger generation could not have an identity. That right now we have a new generation of beggars in their own country. Get on Facebook, get on social media. We have a whole generation of our children who are just beggars, just begging for money every day. They wake up in the morning to night, they think about how to beg. So we now have to struggle with what Bob Marley called emancipate ourselves from mental slavery. We have this whole generation that we have to turn the mind around towards development, and that's why we struggle. That's why we are struggling right now. So yes, you made, and as I said, with the democratic gain is going to be, because democracy is a slow process. It's going to be very slow. The gains is going to be gradual over time, and I agree with Steve. Ellen Kim, she did her part, she have gone. George Weah Kim, he did his part, he's gone. Joseph Berger is there, he gave his part, we're gone. We start fighting, we go, another person will come. And if we keep on this trajectory, we will be able to find something, to find our developmental path. We will be able to help our younger generation, the 2000s generation, that remember the 1990s generation. Those who stay in Liberia never saw what they call peace. They don't understand peace. They don't know peace. They don't train into peace. They don't even know the Liberians who, some of us who grew up seeing the streets being clean, seeing what they call it, public works working, seeing water running in our house, electricity was working, not regular, but those things were working. We had a bus system. We had a yes transport system. That you could go and rent a car. You have different car rental in Monserrado County. Most of the generation born in the 90s, they have never seen it in their life. All they saw were war, peace, and struggle.
Okay. All right, Steve, we'll take that call. I know you got our good friend, Mr. Pro, on the phone. So yeah.
Riverside Pro, go ahead. Introduce yourself to our audience. We know you to be a regular.
Yeah, we don't know you.
Yeah, man. Audience, Pro or AB, Ibrahim. But guys, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, thank you for the show, man. It's great. Been following. Got a whole group of children here, so I kept my laptop outside. Every one of them follow me, so yeah, it's like a date here. But anyway, that's a good show. But one question before I just want to make one of the things, we talk about the highs and lows. As I said in my comment there, one of the lowest point of our history, or in our history, was the Civil War. I think it overshadows every good thing, that positive representation we have out there. When I come to the United States, one of the first person that, when I said Liberia, the first thing that came from his mouth, and he's not even an African, during Civil War. So it was like my identity. They didn't know me for anything positive. Of course, the George Weah thing was, another positive that later on people found out. But generally, the people, when you say Liberia, the first thing that comes to mind, when you have that negative identity on you, when that's the best way they can identify you, that's not good. And then my question to Brother Josh said something interesting. He said that we don't have we lost our identity, and when the settler came, they should have worked with the native, in terms of trade and other things. But Brother George, there are people out there, and I just saw a post yesterday. The lady said that there was no Liberia prior to the coming of the settler. So my thing is, Brother George, so it's like, who were these people that the settler was going to? If you got people that saying like there was no, and I went on the post and said, well, it's like saying there was no America before Columbus, and she came down. Well, we all know that there was no. So who were these people? Who are these people that the settler going to trade with or land with? These people, they don't consider them legit, because according to them, maybe they were just a group of bandits or a group of this or how you call it just different group of people. There was no unison. So, and then who were these people that they're supposed to trade with? And when you talk about identity, definitely it's like the Indians, the Indians in this country, the Native Americans. When you see them now, Brother George, a lot of them, like one of them is Mama Kenny, you can never tell he's an Indian because he has adopted that American way. He dressed like a regular white man, and I used to think he was Mexican or white or something. But later on, I found out he was Indian. So I think that's the same thing happened to us Liberians too, because we have when the settler came, I think we kind of like their dressing and the way they sing, we decided to adopt it. So yeah, like I said, so if there was no Liberia prior to this coming, who are these people that the settler supposed to trade with? Thank you very much for having me, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your question.
Yeah,
Dr. George.
That's a great question, River says Pro, and the person that made that statement is missing the difference between the political entity called Liberia and the geographical entity called Liberia. So yeah, so if you talk about political, there was no Liberia until until the settlers came and named that area Liberia. But all the writings, even the settlers' own writing, they will tell you the U.S. government contributed $100,000. They purchased this piece of land. So if there was no human being, who did you buy the land from? Did the Almighty or Angel Gabriel came and met you, or you paid for Angel Gabriel and said their land belonged to you? No, you met people. And we have great quotations. I've shared a quotation of King Saul Boswell when he came down to Monrovia. He saw King George. He said, having you sold your land and accepted payment, you must bear the consequences. Let the settlers have the land immediately. So even for the survival of the settlers, they had to depend on great King Saul Boswell. And we don't talk about this king, because he was the one who made sure, because the Bassa people led by King George wanted to wipe them out of that land. But Saul Boswell, they had to turn to Saul Boswell to come.
Bassa people have been selling land for a long time.
To come down to say, look, this land you have sold it, those people must have the land. And if anybody don't agree with what I do, I'm going to come from Boobaloo, my army, and I will cut your neck from your shoulder, as I did. I think it was King Long Peter he was talking to, rather, as I did old King George on my last visit to the coast. So these people were there. These people helped them to fight. When the lie that we have found out after you read Liberian history, the lie that Matilda Newport had a pipe in her mouth and she put it and killed people, we know that it's a lie today. So there were people there. There were the Dame Bassa. It was the Dame Bassa that sold that land for the settlers to settle in that area. So we know there were people. We also know from digging in our history that there were businesses going on. The people from Bapolu, the Gola, the Va people, they had a great business going on that went as far as into Sierra Leone, going up all the way into Northern Africa. And if you read the initial history, when the first president of Liberia, Joseph Jinginrawa, his business, he had ship business. He was moving those and pepper that came from up north and other places. He was bringing them to the west to sell. Many people don't know in Liberian history that our presidents were actually engaged in great economic business with other parts of the world. But then they started to change. Instead of us using these great business people, we started doing business to the west. If you read Sam Jackson's book, he talks about that. And once we started moving towards the west, we stopped developing our indigenous businesses. So
Dr. George, answer the question. So thank you for making the case for 1847. But Dr. Firstly, I'm going to go back to you, because look, guys, I know this show can go on forever. And Robert, that was a great question. Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. But this show can go on forever. Else we need to end it. So Dr. Firstly, let me come back to you. Where do we go from here? The country is 77 years old in Dr. George's estimation, which I disagree. But where do we go from here? Where do we go from here? What is our trajectory? What is the way forward for Liberia in terms of development?
Mr. Terry, thank you for that. And, I love the historian, Dr. George, but I think our country need to do something more at this point in our time. Our country need to now focus on us, the 1980 bonds, I can say. Let's forget about the 1847 people, right? The reason I say that is, for example, few things are killing our country: corruption. And I'll give you a quick analogy. You are a homeowner, Dr. George is a homeowner. We got something called weed. We plant the carpet grass, right? We plant the carpet grass, and when you plant your carpet grass, weed come in it. If you don't start taking out that weed gradually, eventually the weed will take over your whole carpet grass, and then your neighbor will start telling you you're not doing what the HOA wants you to do. So eventually, the first problem that Liberia have to face is corruption. We have to tackle corruption at the root source. Where that corruption is, what is impacting our country, we have to fix that first. And we have to have a leader that is willing to step down and say, hey, if you steal, you're going to go to prison, your asset will be seized, everything will do the court system find you guilty, right? So our judicial system needs to work. Everybody that have a position have to know the value of their position in order for our country to move forward. Next, we have to have, like the UN have a 2060 agenda, or I think the AFTA, the African Free Trade, I think Free Union or something like that. They have a 2060 agenda. Liberia have to have its own 2040 or 2080 agenda that the Senate, the House of Representatives, everybody have to sign that agenda and say, this is what we're going to develop. So any leader that comes, you have to follow that agenda. If, let's say, Boaka come and finish agenda, item number 1 on that agenda, the next leader, the Senate have to enforce that they finish item number 2, right? The next person have to finish item number 3. So throughout now, the whole country will be based on that agenda. So no leader will come and start with a clean slate. Everybody will come and say, all right, if Boaka were building a road to Cape Man from Monrovia, I will the next will come and build it from Monrovia to Sierra Leone, right? Something like that, some kind of agenda that continuously keep development rolling, so that a leader can come and just say, all right, my own administration is only going to be bluffing. We're going to order women from Brazil. We're going to do this. We're going to travel overseas. We're going to go to this place to see our girlfriend and stuff like that. No, we have to have a plan for our country. Seriously, bring architects, building designers, urban developer, put them on the plate and say, listen, how do we want to see Liberia? Come up with a plan. Let's look at it, and then even moving the capital, how we want our next capital to look, our next airport to look, all those things have to be drawn down. Some president have to sit down and say, let's plan all these things out. And then the Senate will vote on a budget, on a plan for us to build all these things. So every president, every mayor, every governor that everybody in Liberian government have to work on that agenda. If not, we vote you out of office.
Thank you, Dr. P. Thank you, Dr. P. Very well taken. Dr. George, go ahead. You got a closing statement. Go ahead. You know.
Well, I know we didn't get time to go through, but we're excited. Again, in my closing statement, I want to tell everyone I stand with the oration yesterday. I have read that speech. I think the American embassy should apologize to the Liberian people. It was disrespectful for a charge affair to behave the way she behaved. The speech, it was only one paragraph of that speech that she was the U.S. And if a U.S. ambassador could tell us that our capital, Monrovia, was the deadliest capital in the world, and we did not expel him, for someone saying that America look at the interest and you are walking out, it was very disrespectful. So I think they have made a statement, but I think they should go beyond that statement. The Liberian people should protest to make sure that Shashi affair is changed for being disrespectful at our 177th Independence Day celebration. And I do stand by the orator. There's nothing she said that every one of us who have studied Liberian history and have been in part of the Liberian political environment have not thought about in our brains, but perhaps we have not said it through our mouth. And again, when Dr. Dunn gave his speech, his oration, he spoke along similar lines that we should have national identity. We should find ourselves as Liberians. Yes, to do this, Liberians, let me just say this. We have to suffer for some years. Independence is not cheap. Being a sovereign nation is not cheap. It comes with struggle. And we may have to suffer for some time. One of the things that is keeping us back is this backup mentality, and we must stop that. America doesn't come in our country because they love us. They built a $250 million embassy in Monrovia. They didn't do it because they love us as Liberians. They did it because of their interests. And everybody in this business do it because of their interests. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. George. Thank you, Dr. Positive. On that note, friends, I think we are going to end the show. And to all of our viewers, we say thank you for joining us today. It's been a great discussion on Liberia at 177 years old. And I thank my panelists, Dr. Positive, for joining me, Dr. George for also joining me. Next week, we are going to be here the very first Sunday in August, and we are going to be discussing what we call, I'm going to get there, Dr. George. Who do we have next week on our show?
Yeah, we're going to have Catherine and a group. They do a football academy in Liberia. They're going to tell us about this academy.
So it's going to be on cover next week, right?
Cover, yeah.
On covers. Okay, so we are going to be here next week, Sunday, guys, to actually be talking about some plans for Liberia, and Catherine is going to be here to be discussing that. So thank you for joining us today. We will look forward to seeing you next week. Stay safe and happy belated 26th Independence Day to Mama Liberia. Talk to you soon.